Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is T and you're watching TokYo-Yo Reviews. Thanks for all the likes, comments, and subscriptions. Let's get into the review for today. So, I'm talking about a yo-yo that's been very hyped recently. Today we're going to be talking about the Metal Skyva. Is the Metal Skyva nothing but soft rock and easy listening, or is this thing as metal as it gets? So let's talk about the Metal Skyva. The shape is a modified H. You've got a steep slope going down into the gap here. You have a step up near the bearing, and then the rims are well defined. Got a little bit of extra rim weight here, but this cut is quite soft. The cup is where a big change has happened. The cup is Delrin, although the outside here is metal, and you do have the same fingerspin dimple and the same area in here that leads to the dimple as before. It's slightly angled inward so that even if you miss the dimple, you will get there eventually. 6061 on the outside here, as I mentioned, and the inside is plastic Delrin, which is a very high quality, nice plastic. I'll talk about how it feels later as well, but it does fit comfortably. I do like my H shapes quite a bit. This does feel a little bit narrow in the hand, but not too narrow to be uncomfortable. How can I say this? The way that its plastic goes to the metal, it creates a very unique feel in the hand. As for the look, this thing is just super classy. I got the gray version here, gray on metal, black on the Delrin, and it just looks really incredible. There's also a white version, but either color that you get, this thing just screams style. That's sort of Jeffrey Pang's thing, is just really well designed yo-yos that look amazing as well as play amazing. But the eye-catching nature of his designs is just, I think, pretty hard to match. So let's talk about the history of the Metal Skyva. Jeffrey Pang, who designed the original Skyva, is also the designer here. Where you'd see a lot of threads in the Reddit saying like, what do you think the equivalent of the Skyva is in metal? And there isn't much that really copies it exactly. You're seeing more and more yo-yos like the Yo-Yo Factory Pivot that have a similar design, but nothing that you could absolutely equate to Skyva in metal form. Jeffrey Pang announced, he had an AMA on Reddit where he talked about, one of the comments he said, if enough people vote for this, or if enough people talk about this, I'll do the Metal Skyva, and then he did it. So that's kind of where it came from, but I think this is probably one of the most sought after ideas in yo-yoing. I think a lot of people were really wanted a Metal Skyva to come out. It is based on the plastic Skyva in a lot of ways. I'll talk about that more in the time-on that's coming up soon. But there are a lot of key differences. It is very similar, and you can feel the history of the plastic Skyva in the Metal Skyva for sure. But I'll be very curious to see where the Skyva goes after this, as far as going from plastic, and then they had several runs to the Metal Skyva, and then I'm sure there'll be some other form of the Skyva in the future, maybe a titanium Skyva, Tyva, anyone? But as far as its current iteration, this is a very interesting stepping stone, not just for Jeffrey Pang, but for Magic Yo-Yo and the Skyva itself. So as far as how the Metal Skyva plays, it plays like it's lighter. It's very nimble, it flies, it lands on the string quite well, it does move pretty well. I feel like because of the lightness, sometimes when you're moving the yo-yo back and forth, or you're doing a lot of pops, if you're not careful, it can go off plane a little bit. I've mentioned in some of my older reviews that I'm a pretty sloppy player, so that could just be down to my technique. But I feel like the lightness is something you need to watch out for if you really want to push this yo-yo. But recently I've seen a video of both Lorenzo Cubing and Brandon Vu, who both push this yo-yo pretty hard, and they don't seem to have a problem, so it could just be me. Finger spins I mean, there has to be the obligatory, how does it finger spin? Of course it finger spins amazingly. Now, I mentioned during the unboxing that the dimple felt a little bit more shallow than the original Skyva, and I'm still not sure if that's the case or not. It certainly does feel a little bit more shallow, but it could be just because the way that the material around the dimple goes in is a little bit softer, so it might just feel like it's not quite as deep. In any case, it does feel better than the original Skyva, certainly. Because of the smoothness of the Delrin and because of the way that this is machined, it just locks your finger right in there, and it's so silky smooth. In Japan, it's extremely humid right now, so I like to wear a glove when I'm doing finger spins because it's just a little bit easier, it doesn't skip as much. And you can barely feel it on a finger spin. This one has a blasted finish, which is extremely good for grinds. The shape of it is it's not gonna really grind as easily as something like a Yo-Yo Empire. I know I rave about them a lot, but as long as your angle is good and you're really paying attention, you're not gonna have any trouble with grinds. This thing is very smooth and it does grind well as long as you concentrate on keeping your plane nice and even. This has a really good response too. I know a lot of people complain about Magic Yo-Yo response. I feel like since the carp fin, they've been really serious about their response. I never had a really big problem except like on the Desperado. But I will say that this definitely does feel grippier than the original Skyva for sure. It has that really nice snap to it where you can feel the response activating. There's no slippiness to it. It binds exactly when you need it to, but it doesn't snag. And like I mentioned, it is really easy to move. I feel like it's very nimble. It obeys whatever you throw at it very well. Some people may have problems with it because it is on the lighter side, but I feel like that's not really an issue if you like lighter yo-yos. I do prefer my yo-yos a lot heavier, but this yo-yo has actually made me start enjoying lighter yo-yos a bit more. And I should say this thing is really smooth too. I mentioned in the unboxing, but this thing is really smooth on the string. But all in all, I really like the Metal Skyva. I think it's a really interesting addition to the Skyva line. I think it's really cool that Jeffrey Pang did it. And I think that we need to talk a little bit about the choice to put Delrin in the cups here, because you could have gone full metal, and that's what a lot of yo-yos with this similar design have done. Like the Pivot, for example, has the aluminum body and the aluminum cup. There are other yo-yos like the Sherpa or the Fingerspin that use metal inside the cup for the fingerspin area. I've touched the Sherpa a few times. I haven't gotten to play with it too much, but I'm not a huge fan of how that metal feels on my fingernail. It was the same with some other throws like the purple line, the blasted one. The way that Throws Definitive described it was ceramic, and I feel like that really is true. The Checkpoint also felt like that. I really liked how smooth it was, but fingerspins feel kind of like nails on a chalkboard to me. So I feel like not having to worry about your nails scraping along a metal surface, especially when it's bouncing on this cup area like that, is really nice. Having the Delrin is just really soft. And I am a fan of Delrin because of Yo-Yo Empire. A lot of their stuff is Delrin or Palm, and I really like the way it feels. One thing that's really hard to put my finger on with the Metal Skyva is how it feels. This thing, it doesn't really feel like a metal or a plastic, which I guess is like the truest expression of what a hybrid yo-yo is. It sometimes feels like a metal, but like on a catch it feels like a plastic, maybe because it's lighter, I don't know, but definitely it's super unique, and it's hard for me to say, like, I don't want it to sound like a put down, like this thing doesn't feel like a metal. It just feels like a really true representation of what a plastic and a metal can be, because it's so smooth. The plastic and metal are so flawlessly integrated. It just feels extremely interesting and unique. I don't know of another yo-yo that feels quite like this. Anyway, let's get into pros and cons of the Magic Yo-Yo Metal Skyva. First of all, the Metal Skyva looks amazing. As I said before, the color looks really nice. The black and gray looks very cool, almost iPhone-esque. Jeffrey Pang completely killing it with the design. Like, I think the choice to go without engraving was really smart. Let the design of the yo-yo speak for itself. Everybody knows what a Skyva is at this point, so you don't need to put the logo on it again. As I mentioned, great finger spins, great grinds. It's extremely smooth, and it's the original finger spinner. I think that there are other yo-yos that have that kind of design trait, but there are very few yo-yos now with modern sensibilities in mind that do it like this and do it this well. It's also gotten a lot of people into horizontal. People I've talked to about yo-yos and stuff, when they see me doing finger spins, they're like, wow, I didn't know yo-yos could do that. And now I can finger spin on just about anything, but showing someone a finger spin is like a really fast way to get them into yo-yos, because they don't know, all they think a yo-yo can do is go up and down. And when you see someone doing a horizontal trick, it's kind of like mind-blowing. And especially when you see a finger spin, because it's easy to comprehend what's happening. It's not like a really complex string trick. But I think finger spins are a really, really good way to get people into yo-yos just when they're watching you do it. And when someone picks up a Skyva and they're able to do a finger spin relatively easily, or after, you know, not as much practice, I think it's just a really, really good entry for a lot of people. I mean, getting more people into the hobby is kind of good, right? As for cons, the only con I could really think of was the price. It really depends on where you're coming from. One of the really good things about the original Skyva is that it's so cheap. It was kind of an alternative, or at least in the same kind of price range as like a Replay or other plastic yo-yos in that really, really entry level. And this one takes the price up quite a bit to more than double, at least in Japan. This thing cost me about $60. So the price is quite a bit more, but you are getting something pretty different with that. You are getting a really, really nice yo-yo, not just a Skyva clone in metal, but something that does play really, really well and by modern standards a lot more, as well as having the really cool design and still having that ease of finger spin capability. That said, if you are in the market for something that you want to beat around and that you want to learn to finger spin on but not really worry if it gets damaged, then the price for this one may be a little bit high for you. You may want to go with a plastic Skyva first, see how it goes, and then move up to the metal Skyva if you ever want to. And our final section of this review, who's the metal Skyva for? I think the metal Skyva is a good yo-yo for somebody who wants a magic yo-yo to get into the finger spin game, but also wants something that plays a little more competition-y. Again, it does play similarly to an original Skyva, but the addition of the brushed metal and the really nice Delrin caps, I think, make this a lot more playable than the original Skyva. Not to say the original Skyva is not playable, but this thing does feel like a step up in playability. It does come with the bigger price tag, but I do feel like it's worth it for a lot of key reasons. Like I said, the quality of the plastic, the quality of the metal. Yeah, this thing just plays really well. It does play to its price, so I don't think it's too expensive for what it does. I just think that if you're looking at the Skyva next to the metal Skyva, then that may be something you want to consider. That's going to do it for today's episode, the review of the metal Skyva. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do get a metal Skyva, let me know in the comments, or if you liked it or didn't like it, let me know. Pretty soon here I'm going to be doing a Skyva versus metal Skyva time-on. I think it's something that a lot of people would like to know about. I've been getting a lot of comments about it, so I'll try to get that out probably the same week that this goes out. So look forward to that. Also, as I mentioned, I'm almost at 500 as of the recording of this video, plus I've got a lot of things coming in the mail, so between time-ons and mail days and unboxings and reviews, and I've got more tutorials and I've got tips coming out. I've got a lot of content coming up, so I know I look tired when I say that. I'm actually really excited. It's just gonna be a busy year, and that's good to have things to do for this channel. So thanks for all your support. I'm really glad that people have stuck around. Thank you so much. Anyway guys, take care, have a nice day, and sayonara.